Hello guys, I am back from another video, and today we're talking about what if Deku was reincarnated into Genshin Impact. And I'm really sorry for the background noise because currently I got my brand new tablet and god dang it's pretty good. And you probably might hear some background noise, so unfortunately I'm currently playing, Fake Run Order because, I recently, re-uploaded the game. So yeah, anyway, in the last video we talked about how after, Deku basically, woke up pretty early in the morning, he would basically go around town and basically just just did some stuff. And also met with a brand new, ship. In this case, Hu Tao, which was also one of the ships for, or at least one of the girls for, Izuku's harem. So, wait for a second, my nose. So, after meeting her and also her just playing with her little ghost things, she would basically introduce herself as Hu Tao, the, 77th director of the Wangshang funeral parlor, which, Izuku was pretty surprised. After saying goodbye to her, Izuku, goddammit. So, after Izuku basically left her, he would basically start to go to the, to the blacksmith shop, which, the blacksmith shop is currently, still closed. And after, seeing that, he would basically start to leave and basically decides to go do some training. After seeing some geoslimes, which he started fighting with, he would basically notice that one of the, patterns in his, vision would start to glow and resemble the colors of the, geo, element, causing him to basically, use the geo element, like, for example, creating, Gaster Blaster, basically like Gaster Blaster type things, which instead of shooting out a laser and made out bones, they shoot out, lasers that basically turn their enemies into, into literal, stone, like Medusa. And instead of basically, being made out of bones, they're made out of, geo energy, or in this case, rocks. Wait for a second, my throat. So, after, basically meeting them, and also basically, defeating them, basically, I meant, he would basically, decide to basically go back to the shop. And when he saw that the shop is basically open now, he would basically request the owner to basically make him a brand new sword. In this case, this one. And you probably know what is the green energy. And it's going to be coming out very soon. So, after finally, meeting with the owner and basically telling him to basically, make him a weapon for, his brand new geo element, he would basically decide to do it. And so would decide to make a sword, and not a claymore. By the way, even though I made it look like, pretty large, I was, I sort of accidentally, not really scaled well. So I just imagine it just smaller than this thing. I'm just gonna be calling this the Tempest Blade for now. Just imagine it, smaller than the Tempest Blade. So, yeah. So, after, after basically telling him that, he would basically start to leave to go back, to where, to basically Xiangling's house. And after seeing breakfast, he would basically start to eat. And notice the, little writing on it. Apparently the writing was made out of ketchup. And after seeing the writing, which said, eat this. And it would also have, a little, chibi drawing of both him and also, Xiangling, basically just wearing traditional Japanese wedding clothing, which by the way, Lumi was pretty jealous of. And after finishing eating, he would basically, say goodbye to them, and so would basically go around basically just doing nothing, until he met up again with, Hu Tao. Apparently Hu Tao has a job, which apparently is to take care of some, nearby, disturbances, and basically decides to basically join her. So, after a while, basically, fighting off some, pretty much some just normal ass, hill trolls, for example, the crossbow-based ones, and the, the normal melee ones, and the large ones, which I kind of forgot the name of. They would basically, destroy them all, and would basically part ways. But Tao would slowly become, pretty much take a liking to him. And you can take a guess why. So, after arriving back at, the blacksmith shop, and after getting his brand new weapon, he would basically start to channel, geo energy from it, and basically allows him to basically summon, or at least use the abilities of, the, Geo element, making him pretty much powerful. Not really, I mean, he's already overpowered himself already. I mean, he literally gotten all of these powers already. Like, seriously. So, after doing that, he would basically say goodbye, and so would basically leave to go back, back to where, where, Xiangling and also Lumine are. Apparently, they were sleeping on, basically like a futon type thing, and so would decide to go to sleep on it as well. And so, he would basically go onto the bed, and so, or at least the futon or whatever you want to call it, and fall to sleep. So yeah, so, that is basically what happened last episode. And so, let's talk about what happens next. So, as Izuku basically, woke up pretty much late at the night, he would basically, see that, both Lumine and also, sorry about that, Xiangling are basically, just gone. After noticing this, Izuku would basically, get up and would basically stretch around. After doing that, he would basically start to leave to go downstairs and see that, a few people were there. Specifically, Lumine, Xiangling, and also Paimon, but also seems to be another person. In this case, a girl with, I think, cat ears? She also seems to have, purplish hair, and also seems to have, wait for a second, with pinkish eyes, as she would say this. "Oh, you must have been awake already. And while you were sleeping exactly," she would basically say, as Belle would say, not Belle, I meant Izuku got... Ah, shit. I meant Izuku, as Izuku would say this. "Oh, I was a bit tired, and mind telling me who your name is?" As she would say this. "Oh, allow me to tell you, Mr. Izuku of the 1,000 Elements," she would basically say, as you would say. Great, even more stupid titles. He would basically start to, become a little bit angry at this point. Not really angry outwardly, but more angrily, internally. As she would say this. "I am Qi I am one of the, members of the Liwei Qixing. And I'm also here because I want to give you the invitation for the Jade, for the Jade Palace. Apparently Ningguang wants to talk with you. Especially you, Miss, I think your name was," as she would say, "Oh, Lumine, you kind of forgotten." As she would say, "I see. So, I want both of you to get ready. We're going to be going to, wait for a second, to go to the Guizhong, I think it was called the Guizhong Ballista. Yeah, I think that's the name." After saying this, Izuku would say this. "I see, so what time exactly?" As she would say, "Oh, now." As Izuku would say, "Wait, do I have to wear this then?" As he would basically show off just, some simple, like, sleeping shorts and pants. As she would say, "No, not exactly. Maybe wear something a little bit more formal," she would basically say. As, Izuku would say, "Oh, sure, then, can you wait outside with Lumine?" As Lumine would say this. "Yeah, I'm already on it anyway." She would basically start to leave as, Paimon would also follow her. As for Qi, she would also start to leave. As not Bella, I meant Izuku, god damn it. As Izuku would say, "So, as she would say, oh, yes, Izuku?" She would basically say, specifically, Xiangling, as he would say, where's my clothes exactly? The ones that I came here from? Or the ones that I came in one? Like, the ones that I basically came here from." As she would say, "Oh, it's currently outside, and I actually washed them." As Izuku would say this. "Thank you. You're actually a pretty good, person, Xiangling. You might become a good housewife someday," she would, like, Izuku would basically say. After hearing this, she would basically start to blush, as she would say, "Oh, yeah, I think." She would basically start to, twirl her hair a little bit, as, Izuku would basically start to laugh a little bit, as he would basically start to leave to, God, why is my voice hurting? God dang it. Wait for a second, guys. Sorry about that. So, after, basically saying goodbye to, Xiangling, he would basically go outside and basically grab his, fully dried clothes. After changing into these, specifically these, and including, wrapping his, fingers in, bandages, which Izuku sort of liked. Mostly because it's sort of a habit during his time back when he was still in, back when he was still working as a, I guess you could say like a sort of, treasure hoarder. I mean, he's still pretty much family with the treasure hoarders, but still, he sort of, dumbed that down, kind of. And recently, he's sort of been avoided by other, like, sort of been avoided by other, members of his, community, like, the treasure hoarders, basically. Apparently, he's been hearing about, some of them, some of them saying that they don't want to hurt him, mostly because, their family or something of that sort, but he doesn't really like that all that much as an excuse. But either way, after, basically, just like grabbing the bandages, which he sort of has that habit because during his time as, a treasure hoarder, kind of, he would basically start to get in trouble, especially with nobles. And let's just say some of the guards there would basically cause, some serious damage to him. And so that is why he usually, has bandages on his hand. Mostly the hand that he uses to, summon in, his hydro powers back in the day. So that is why he usually covers that hand specifically. So after, preparing all of his things, he would basically start to leave and say goodbye to Xiangling. But Xiangling would also, come up to him before he can actually leave, as she would basically kiss him. Nearby outside, currently Lamine saw this, like, out the window as she's currently fuming. When, a certain, I don't know, fake Neko over there, which, yeah, apparently she doesn't have cat ears, specifically, Kiching, which was pretty surprising to me. I mean, I can definitely see why, but how? Why did they make them, like, why didn't they make her, like, an actual, like, cat-eared girl? I mean, I can definitely see why. I mean, she doesn't like Adepti, things of that sort, but still. So, after, seeing this, Lamine is basically just like, pretty much fuming, as when, Kichi noticed this, she would say, are you okay there, Miss Lamine? As she would say, yeah, I'm fine. She would basically start, fume a little bit, as when she noticed that, noticed this from the window, she would notice that, both, Izuku and, Kichi are basically pushing it, like, kissing passionately, as, Kichi would basically start to, face away from it and would start to blush, saying, why are they doing this? As, Paimon would say, Paimon thinks that they're certainly gonna have a certain type of relationship, she would basically say, as, Kichi would just look at her, as she would say, what? As she would say, oh, whatever. She would basically say out loud, as they would basically stop, specifically, Izuku and, wait for a second, god dang it, my nose. After, Xiangling basically, stops kissing, she would say, alright, goodbye. As after doing that, Izuku would just say this. Goodbye then. He would basically say goodbye, as both of them would basically start to leave. Specifically, not really both, but more like all four of them, specifically, Kiching, Paimon, and also, Lamine and himself, aka, Izuku, to go to the, wait for a second, to go to the, Guizhong, ballista. After arriving there, they would see a guard, as this guard would say this, Miss Kiching, and, wait, is that you, Mr. Izuku of the Thousand Elements? He would basically start to stutter a little bit, and, it's you, Miss Lamine of the Golden Sword, as Izuku would start to feel a little bit pissed off, as he would say, just call me Izuku, I'd rather not be called by that stupid title, he would basically say, as, Kiching would notice this, as she would say, you don't really like these titles, as you would say, well, obviously, he would basically say nonchalantly, as she would say, I see. Anyway, we're gonna be first here because I've been reporting that, there's been reports about this specific ballista recently getting repaired, which is quite concerning, as, Izuku would say this. Why? As she would say, well, I don't know who built, or at least, fixed it, but it's definitely something threatening happening soon. Because after hearing that it's fixed, it feels like something bad is gonna happen. As Izuku would say this. Probably nothing. It's probably just like somebody that was, kind of concerned or something of that sort. He would basically, just say, as she would say, yeah, sure. She would basically, just look at him a bit suspiciously, as Izuku would say this. Anyway, so what are we gonna do? How are we gonna get to the Jade Palace? As she would say, God damn it, the stupid. Sorry about the background noise. Anyway, so after Izuku basically God dang it, my voice. Sorry about that. After Izuku said that, specifically how they're gonna get to the Jade Chamber, Ash would say, "Oh, don't worry." She would basically say, as both of them would basically just look around and yeah, wait for a second. She would also tell them that she's sort of doesn't like Adepti. Apparently, the reason why she doesn't like Adepti is because she thinks that they're looking down on them, mostly humans, which Izuku can definitely, think why. I mean, Bakugo was still, quirkless and being beaten by Bakugo, by the way, and also being bullied by other quirk users. He sort of had that same feeling, thinking that, all quirk users should just, disappear. Even quirks themselves should just disappear. He would basically think in his mind, back in his, own life, or at least somewhat, kind of. I mean, not really kind of, but, you basically get it. So, after Izuku thought of this, he would say, so, why are you talking about this, like the whole Adepti thing? Ash would say, well, it seems that somebody has fixed the, ballista, and only an Adepti is able to do that. Anyway, here's the way to basically go to the Jade Chamber, she would basically explain. I'm not going to tell you all of it because, I'm not really that in-depth into the game. I mean, I'm going to be starting out soon because, recently I got my brand new tablet, things of that sort, but I'm not really into the game yet. I'm going to be getting it very soon, but currently I'm still playing Fate Grand Order right now. So, yeah. So, after, doing that, Izuku would basically say, alright, so we're just gonna be getting a gift first, then Ash would say, yeah. So, after getting a simple gift, which was just, I don't know, flowers, I guess. Let's just say flowers, yeah. Wait for a second. So, after, finishing off, getting the, presents, they would basically start to go to the Jade Chamber, which, I'm not gonna explain how they actually got there, so just imagine it just like, teleportation. Or at least, I think. Let me just ask my cousin if he actually knows how to get to the Jade Chamber. After teleporting there, he would basically, look over and see the Jade, palace. As he would be in awe. Even though the place is not really made out of jade, or at least colored like jade, as in, green. Which was pretty disappointing to him, but either way, it looks pretty impressive. Lumine and also Paimon were also seeing it in awe. But for Kiching, she would just, already seen it many times, so she isn't that impressed anymore. As a person would basically arrive there. Specifically, Ningguang, which they already met many, many episodes ago. I can't really remember which episode which they actually got into, leeway, so let's just say many episodes ago. As she would introduce herself. Ah, hello there, Mr. Izuku of the Thousand Elements. As you'd say, just call me Izuku, please. Don't call me by that stupid title. As you'd say, huh, I see. You're more of the simple man, anyway. So, hello there, Miss Lumine of the, of the Golden Sword. As she would basically bow, as, she would say, oh, just call me Lumine. As she would say, just like Mr. Izuku, eh? She would basically say, as she would say, yeah, I guess. Welcome to the Jade Chamber, she would basically, say, out loud, which both of them would just think that it's sort of, a bit too dramatic, as she would basically, tell them, the reason why she made the Jade Chamber. Apparently, back when she was still a merchant, which she was, pretty much poor at the time, apparently. Apparently, she basically climbed through the dirt and basically climbed to the top of the, of the status, like, the entire, like, I guess you could say, like, political system of the, of, leeway, and basically became a powerful merchant, even able to basically, sell, like, high quality products. And after, all that grueling work, she would basically start creating the Jade Chamber, which she recently started doing funds for a long time. And so, after finishing the Jade Chamber, she would just, like, use it as mostly just as her, basically like a glorified office, basically. She would also tell them that apparently she was also in contact with Jean, and apparently she also recently, like, during their time basically there, they were basically being watched by mostly, high level soldiers and pretty good, spies. And apparently, they think of them as just like, just normal ass citizens, not really suspicious anymore. So that's the reason why they're no longer being targeted. And not only that, apparently, that inn where, sorry about that, the inn that, Zhao basically lives in, apparently, she, like, her, the workers there, or at least, the grandmother or whatever, apparently, all of them, and I mean all of them, actually work for Ning Wong, which was pretty, scary to think about. As Izuku would think, yeah, this is definitely the most weirdest country imaginable, he would basically start to think, as Ning Wong would say this. But either way, she would basically, clap her hands, as, wait for a second, but either way, she would basically just, slap her, not really slap, more like, clap her hands, as you say. But I also want to talk about a little story. The story of the Archon War. So, she would basically explain a little war. Apparently, it was basically a war between gods, which, by the way, Izuku would start to think, either it's real or actually not even real. Actually, it's pretty much real. After hearing about Mr. Drunken Bard over there actually being an Archon, he would basically start to think, which, after hearing this war, which apparently the victors of this war became the new Archons, and apparently, when, an Archon dies, apparently they can be replaced. Apparently, there's going to be a brand new Geo Archon, which, by the way, kind of thinks it's sort of cool. I mean, sort of, and I mean sort of. And either way, he would start to think, so if there's this actual new Lord of Geo, I wonder who's going to be the brand new Lord of Geo then. He would basically start to think. But he would basically get out of his thoughts as Lumine would say this. Hey, Izuku, as Izuku would say this. Oh, yes, Lumine? As she would say, well, we should probably get into the Jade Palace. As, Izuku would say, wait, what? So, after he looks back, he would see Ning Wong is gone. As Izuku would say, well, shit. So, after getting into the, into the Jade Palace, they would basically start to talk once again. Apparently, Ning Wong sort of knows who the actual culprit is, and apparently the reason why they sort of, I guess you could say, gone down the grid, I guess you could say, to basically, hide the body of, the Rex Lapis, aka the Exuvia. Well, they sort of expected, or at least suspected, that the, actual murderer, or at least the one that actually killed, Rex Lapis, was the Fatui. Which, Izuku was not really surprised. I mean, after seeing the whole, like, situation back in, back in Mondstadt, which, by the way, still sort of terrified him, and also seeing that, Venti was being beaten to the fucking ground, which, by the way, sort of reminded him back when he was still, a weak little boy without a quirk. So, yeah, after hearing about this, as a little present from, Ning Wong, she would basically tell them that they can pick anything, and I mean anything, from the Jade, not really Jade Chamber, I meant, the, let me just check the actual, yes, I was right, it's going to get, like, the Jade Chamber anyway, so, after, thinking about it, a certain, blonde-haired girl, aka, Lumine, would say, can we get this? As she would basically point at a piece of paper from her little board, and apparently this board contains a paper that mostly says, mostly merchant secrets, which she would basically comply, and so would basically give it to them. So, after seeing this, she would basically, wait for a second, goddammit, my voice, why? And after looking at the papers, which, by the way, which seem to mostly, indicate about the Fatui mostly making copies, or at least, like, researching about, these sigils of permission. And after Nick Guang basically tells them to basically leave, all of them would basically start to leave and go back down to the, I guess you could say the surface. So, after arriving back at the, normalish area, or more specifically, the actual town instead of the, the literal, like, goddamn, like, city of the sky, basically, or castle of the sky, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, I just, I just can't believe that she actually made that thing. Like, seriously, how much money would that actually cost? Anyway, so, after arriving back down at, the city, they would basically go back home to basically go to sleep at, Shengming's house. So, after waking up and basically leaving, they would basically go to research, or at least, look around and maybe find out about the Fatui's whereabouts, and mostly about, the secrets, or at least, the whole Fatui thing, if they're actually true. So, after, basically getting out of there and basically, saying goodbye to, Shangling again, and also getting kissed by her, which, made, Louis jealous, obviously. And so, both, like, all of them would basically start to leave to basically go towards that specific area of the map, which was noted in the, piece of paper. So, after arriving there, they would see a little, like, broken area, mostly made out of just, like, broken buildings, and a crate with, several copies of, sigils of permission, which kind of shocked Izuku, which you would think, wait, if those are actually fake, then chill day. He would basically start to growl, say, I fucking knew it! He would basically scream out loud, basically, like, shocking both Lamine and also, Paimon, as, Paimon would say, please don't scare me like that, as Izuku would just say this. Oh, sorry, Paimon, I fucking knew it! I knew that damn rat was actually, a part of the Fatui, and, actually being an asshole or something of that sort. He would basically say, as he would start to growl thinking about it, and wanting to punch his face in to the ground. So, after Lumi basically hears this, she would basically try to calm down Izuku, but they would decide to basically, tell Zhongli about it, and so would go to Liwang Marsh to basically contact him. So, during nighttime, after basically finishing up dinner, aka Izuku, Lubin, and also Paimon, which, by the way, Paimon is basically eating like Luffy at this point. Basically, like, eating like, just imagine her just, like, eating like Luffy. That's basically what she looks like. So, after arriving at, Liwang Marsh, I think that's the name, or at least, I think that's the name, or at least the pronunciation of it, they would basically see Zhongli, as they would basically tell them about, tell him about the whole, like, thing about, the whole the whole, like, sigil permission copy thing. Which, by the way, Zhongli was sort of surprised, but also seems to be a bit angry, which kind of confused Izuku a little bit. But he would say this, I see, but I was also here because of that, similar reason, as all of them would basically perk up at this, as Izuku would say, why? As he would say, well, I sort of came here to get some glaze lilies. As all of them would just look at him, as, he would say, yes, and I actually want your help, Miss Lumine. He would basically say, as, Lumine would look surprised. Kind of. Wait for a second, apparently, they're going to be, going to a little area, and after basically hearing about, about this little, special thing, they would basically start to move towards that area with Lumine. And after Zhongli brings them to a little glaze lily, he would say, now, I want you to sing to the glaze lily, he would basically say nonchalantly. Izuku would just look at him as he would say, are you crazy? As he would say, no, I'm serious. As, Lumine would say this, hey, Izuku, I'm not really good at singing, so, try not to laugh at me. As Izuku would say this. Sure, I'll try. As, sorry about that. Um, for, Paimon, she would basically get out of there and basically cover her ears. As Lumi would start to sing her horrendous, song. Which, by the way, Zhongli was basically trying to cover his ears. And also Izuku, he would say, "Oh God, please stop," eternally basically in his mind. As after the song was done, well, let's just say the glazily well, oh boy. So, as Lumi was basically trying to sing, they would basically hear crying in the distance and would see Ganyu. As Ganyu is basically crying after hearing about Rex Lapis' passing, which she was not informed at first. She was basically crying as she would say, she would basically start to cry even more as Izuku tried to comfort her, as he would say, Ganyu, are you okay? As she would say, "No, I'm not fine. It's just Rex Lapis. He's dead." She would basically start to cry as she would basically say, "So it seems that Barbados is the only one left." She would basically start to cry even more as, Izuku would basically hear this as he would say, "Wait, the Barbados was the only one left? What do you mean?" As she would basically explain that apparently during the Archon War, or at least, I meant Archon, not Aircon. I'm sorry about that. The Archon War was apparently, a pretty big war, and apparently, all six of the, almost all of the gods were basically killed, except for two, being both Rex Lapis, aka, Morax, and, Venti. And apparently, Venti is currently the only one left. And after hearing of this, Izuku would say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. I should say, no, it's just Rex Lapis. He's just a god that they absolutely care about. She would basically start to cry as a certain, broke person over there looks at the, wait for a second. Zhongli would look, almost seems to be, kind of sad, and seems to be quite regretful, kind of, in his face. Which kind of be, sort of noticed, Izuku would basically notice this right away, which sort of makes him a bit suspicious, thinking, please don't tell me that he's actually the actual god of this actual nation. He would basically start to think in his mind, thinking, don't tell me that the god that literally created money is this idiot over here. He would basically start to think even more. As, unfortunately, it's true. Unfortunately, Izuku, that is the actual god of that nation. Because he's somewhat of a dumbass. With money, specifically. Oh, God. And I can't wait for you to meet with, Raiden over there. Oh, God. Anyway. As everybody's basically hearing this, apparently, there's also another Archon, specifically the Dendro Archon, which Izuku never really knew about this, Dendro element before. Apparently, the Dendro element has not been used for a long time. And apparently, the Dendro Archon is technically the youngest. And after Izuku hearing this, he would think, the youngest, you say, he would basically start to think in his mind. As Ganyu would also explain that she was also an Adeptus, which was pretty obvious, but after hearing that she was actually half Adeptus, specifically a Qinglin, I think that's the actual name? I'm not really good with Chinese, okay? I already said this before, I'm not really good with Chinese, so, yeah. So, after hearing about this, she would also explain that apparently she was also a part of the Archon War, which kind of thinks that, Izuku would start to think that she's probably stronger than he actually thinks. Like, seriously. Like, he would start to think, wait, this innocent little cinnamon roll of a girl is actually a part of a war? He would basically start to think in his mind, as she would basically start, still be crying, as, Lumine would start to comfort her, saying that it's not her fault. As currently with, Sorry about that. I hate my coffee. Sorry about that. Let me just fix this. So, after a bit of comforting with, of trying to comfort, a certain, Coco Goat over there, aka, Gone You, she would basically say, thank you, but I want to give you this. She would basically give a lazily, which all of them would basically be surprised, except for, Mr. Broke Ass Man over there. As she would say, I want you to give this to the grave of my friend, Rex Lapis. Please, okay? She would basically give off she would basically give off a warm smile as Izuku would, accept this. And so, all of them would basically start to leave, going back to Leeway Harbor. And probably this video is gonna be pretty long. The reason why I keep pausing is because I'm using this for now. Yeah, props to this channel, which, by the way, sort of helped me during my time basically making this, what if. And I'm currently not playing Genshin yet. I'm still planning on playing it, but I'm still not, and I still don't have the game uploaded yet. So, I'm gonna be planning on playing it soon, but either way, the props to this channel for basically making this, series happen. I mean, it was one of the factors, in fact. One of the other factors is because of my cousin. Anyway, so, going back to the actual story. So, when they're basically, starting to leave, going back to the, Leeway Harbor, they would see a few members of the Tui basically guarding the way, as Izuku would say this. Hey, get out of our way! As, one of them would say this. Sorry, but we won't let you get in. And besides, our master here doesn't want you to disturb us. And besides, because of this chaos, it certainly is interesting seeing that all of this pathetic little country is going to be destroyed, and we'll soon get the Exuvia, he would say, as one of them would say this. We're not supposed to tell them that, you idiot! As Izuku would, after hearing this, he would say, great. As he would basically grab his sword, as it would start to be infused with, a bit of the, Geo energy, as we scream out, let's see how much you can survive this! After screaming that out, he would basically cause a bit of damage, which caused them to basically, run away in fear. After doing this, Izuku would basically tell all of them to basically, start to run towards a little area so they can follow them. So, after cornering them and also, finding out some information about this, this whole plan of theirs, except for the part where, who's the actual fuse of this actual, story, or at least the one that's going to be causing all of this trouble. So, after, basically doing that, they would basically start to leave, basically getting out of there as fast as they can. As, Zhongli would basically start to leave, as Izuku would say, wait, Zhongli, where are you going? As you would say, I'm going to be busy right now with the funeral parlor, so I'm going to be leaving now. But, if you were to find the fuse, defeat him, no matter what, Mr. Izuku. As he would say this, sure. As all of them would start to think, so who's going to be this fuse or whatever? As Izuku would start to think, don't tell me that it's... As he would start to become a little bit mad, as you'd say, chill day. As after saying that, all of them would start to look at him, as everybody would start to think, why is he doing this? And would realize, he's probably going to the, Golden House to basically get the Exuvia. That's the only reason why. And so, all of them would basically start to run towards the, Golden House. Until they realized that they couldn't find it. So, after, going back to, to the Jade Chamber, and also reporting this, not really reporting anything to this, like, some of it a little bit, like, just the whole, I don't know, maybe, the whole, getting of the Exuvia thing, she would basically start to, say, what? As, Ningguang would basically say that, as, Izuku would say, well, we need to get the location of this Golden House. As she would say, sure. So, after getting the information about this golden house, you would basically start to leave to go towards it to basically stop, Chill Day. Currently, currently, in the Jade, not the Jade Chamber, but more like, the golden house, some guards are basically trying to, protect the Zuvia, as they noticed a young man with a mask, as he would say this. Hey, you're not allowed here, as he would say this. Sorry, but it's orders from the Tsaritsa, as he would basically start slashing them with, hydro energy, which seems to be manifested from two large blades made out of, hydro energy, which they would basically start to get sliced apart, causing blood to be sprayed everywhere. Yeah, it's a bit too graphic, but, just imagine it just like that. After slicing them apart, he would say, how easy. As before he can go to the Exuvia, the dead body of Rex Lapis, Izuku, Lumine, and Paimon would finally arrive, as they would say, Wait, Childe, what are you doing? As Childe would look towards them, as he would say this. Oh, it's been a while, comrades, he would basically say. As he would say this. But, you're in my way, and I would rather not do this, but I will have to fight you, he would basically say, as Izuku would get ready his weapons, as he would say, Why are you doing this? As he would say this. Well, it's my duty as one of the 12 Harbingers, or at least I think there's supposed to be 12. Actually, let me just check. I meant 12, or at least 11. I mean, technically now there's like 11 because of, spoiler, Zinora dies. But either way, he would say this. Well, it's my duty as one of the 12 Harbingers of the Fatui to not let you, get in my way. And unlike Zinora, she was calculating and a bit more, straight to the point and ready to just do whatever she wants, and prefers to just do it quickly and efficiently. But for me, she would basically get ready his weapons, as he would say this. I'm a bit more interested in fighting than anything else, so I decided to make it a little bit more, slower, unlike Senora. So, I've been looking forward to fighting you, mostly because I consider you as quite powerful, Mr. Izuku, and also you, my comrade. He would basically look at Lumine, as she would basically get ready to her sword, as he would say this. But I also hope that we can become friends if I were to, let's just say, allow you to join the 12 Harbingers, which will soon become the 14 Harbingers, in fact, he would basically say, as Izuku would say this. Sorry, but I ain't joining. As he would say this. How disappointing. But either way, he would basically get ready his swords, as you say, let's have a good fight, comrades, he would basically say with a smile. As he would also say, and I'm also here for the Gnosis, so try not to make me regret my decision, he would basically say. And so, the fight would start. So, both of them would, not really both, but more specifically, all three of them would start to fight. So, Izuku would basically start to fight him with his Animo and also Hydro powers, using a bit of his, his Geo powers in the process. As for Lumine, she would start using Animo and also, her Geo powers after getting the, powers of, of the Animo and also the, Geo God. Sorry about that. So, during the battle, Childe is starting to wear his mask, as he's still basically, fighting them with, almost seems to be without restraint, basically slashing at them with his, powers of, Hydro. But, during mid-fight, he would start to use Electro? As Izuku would basically notice the electric sparks basically coming out of him. Basically purple sparks, as he would scream out, "Take this!" As a huge lightning bolt would appear, as Izuku would basically, push, Lumine away before he can get, before she could get, electrocuted. As Izuku would basically create a large looking, wall made out of the, Geo, as he would say this. Well, that was pretty lucky for you. And also, comrades, you certainly are really good at fighting, but as he would basically start to, twirl his, his little, blades around, as both of them would start to combine and it would start to lengthen the, handle. Almost resembling a, I guess you could say like a, double-bladed halberd, as he would say this. But I am stronger, and I'm certainly going to win this battle. Got it? He would basically say, as his, hydro-based, swords would start to become electro instead. As he would say this. Now, let the true fight begin, he would basically say. As after saying that he's basically, getting ready to fight once again, he would basically lunge towards Lumine, as Lumine would start using his, her, her animal energy to basically create a basically like a wall made of, air, or at least a ball made of air. As Izuku would basically jump in, as you'd say, "Oh no, you don't!" As something happens. One of his symbol, or at least another pattern, would also appear again. This time in the color of Dendro. As he would start to create a large blade made out of, wood. As it would basically slashes towards, wait for a second, what's his... Childe. As Childe would basically, supposedly get crushed. As after he creates the large Dendro-like blade, which was made out of his, regular sword, as he would say, "What was that?" As he would start looking at his blade, as a weird-looking symbol appears on his, sword, which resembles a certain clan from, Naruto. Such a... Anyway, so, it's probably gonna be something important next time if I'm making a what if. Maybe. Anyway, so, back with Izuku. Izuku is basically saying this, as he would say, "What the hell happened?" As Lumine would say, "What did you do, and what is that?" As she would say, looking at the weird-looking tree-like, construct that he created, as he would say, "I'm guessing that's Dendro." As she would say, "I'm guessing at least." But they would start looking towards, the large blade of, the large construct made of, of Dendro, as it would start to retract, going into the ground, as it would reveal a crushed-looking, double-bladed, spear that was once used by, Childe. As both them would, all three of them would start to look towards behind them, seeing that Childe is already at the Exuvia. As Izuku would say this, "Childe!" As he would say, "Oh, don't look so annoying. You act like such a recruit back in my day. But, all of you, or more specifically you, Izuku, I know that you're smart, but you're sometimes stupid, in my opinion. You already know why I'm here. I'm here for the Exuvia. And you of all people..." Wait for a second. "You of all people should have known that this was expected," he would basically scream out, as electro energy would basically start to crackle around his arm, as he would stab through the Exuvia. As all of them would be wide-eyed seeing this, as Izuku would say, "What the hell are you doing?" As he would say this, "Isn't that obvious? I'm looking towards, or at least looking for the, the Gnosis," he would basically say, "I meant." God dang it, now I ruined the, the moment, sorry. Anyway, so, as he's basically, basically like Chidoriing it. If you don't know what Chidori is, well, Naruto. So, after doing that, something happens. As he would look wide-eyed, as he would grab nothing, he would basically take out his hand out and basically looked towards nothing. There was nothing in his hand. As he would say, "Well, this is certainly unexpected. I'm guessing you beat me to it. Did you?" he would say with an angry tone, as he would basically rushes towards Lumine and, Izuku and Paimon, as Izuku would jump away with Lumine in his arms in a bridal style, and for poor little Paimon is basically holding onto Izuku's leg for dear life. As after, jumping away, he would say this, "Well, not bad." As his body would start to slowly change, as his body would start to be wrapped around both, electro and also, hydro energy, as his body would start to shift and peel, as his body would fully change, transforming into some sort of monster, as he would basically hold out his hand, summoning back his, weird spear, or at least his double-bladed spear, as you would say. But this is the end of the line! As he would basically grab his spear and basically plunge it towards the floor, causing all three of them to basically fall to the ground. As they would go deeper into the, golden, gold house. The gold house, I think it was called. Yeah. So, after falling to the, to the floor, both of the, all three of them would basically, land safely, somewhat. As for Childe, or at least what they think is Childe, Childe would basically float down, as he would basically point his, spear towards Izuku, as he would say, "Let us have a final fight, and let me see you in your truest form, Izuku Midoriya, and also you, Lumine," she would basically say, he would basically say, as both of them would basically get ready their weapons, getting ready for a fight. After saying this, all of them would basically get ready for a fight. As currently Paimon is basically trying to run away, basically, getting into a corner and basically trying to, try not to get hurt. As Izuku would basically charge forward as he starts using his brand new Dendro element. As he would start to create a large blade made out of, Dendro, as he would start mixing it with, with Hydro, making the, literal large-ass plant, which kind of resembles a literal Ashura, which, by the way, just imagine, an actual Ashura, as in, the Buddhist monster, or, the Buddhist creature from mythology. So, it would start to use its, 6 hands and 3 phases to basically try and take it down, as it would spit out tons and tons of water. As for Lumine, she would basically charge forward, as she would basically start to slash at, Childe in his weird-looking form, as he would scream out, "I will not be beaten!" As he would start creating large whales made from, from his element, aka, Hydro. As Izuku would see this, as he would basically, run away, as he would basically grab his, other sword, aka the Claymore, as he would basically, start using it to create blasts of wind and also some bits of ice, which would start to create large ice-like monsters. Basically, ice dragons, which are covered in water, kind of. As it would start to, create blades of wind, as he would basically rushes towards him, as the gigantic ass Ashura would basically start smashing him into the ground. As for Lumine, she would basically start to create, her, I guess you could say, ball someday, to basically launch, Childe up into the sky, as Izuku would crash down on him, basically with his sword at the ready, as he would scream out, "Take this!" As a large hand made out of wood would basically appear from his, sword, as it would crush, or at least punch him right in the face, specifically, Childe, as Childe would be thrown to the ground like a rag doll. After doing this, he would basically fall to the ground. As, after this fight, they think they won. As Childe would slowly turn back into his normal form, as Childe would say this, "You really are strong, comrades." "How would I just call you friends, then?" he would say, as Izuku would say this. "Friends? Friends? You basically tried to kill us!" As he would say, "No, you're strong enough to call me, or at least, I think you're strong enough to call all of you guys friends. And also, let's just say, that power of mine, my foul legacy transformation, is making me a bit tired. So I won't be able to fight anymore." As he would basically slowly try to run away, and he would say this, "I also probably know that outburst of mine was a bit troubling, but trust me, I know you're not the ones that actually did it. Who stole the Gnosis, or at least took it. Maybe Rex Lapis is alive, or at least in my opinion. Because only a Gnosis that still is in there, or at least someone in there, could be with their god, and if a god dies, they're staying with Exuvia. So maybe Rex Lapis is. As after hearing this, Izuku would say, "What's your point?" As you would say, "The point is, Rex Lapis is alive." All of them would basically widen their eyes, as Izuku would say, "So, he's alive then?" As you would say, "But, I guess I have to go for plan B." He would basically say, as he would say this, "Allow me to show you something. The power to revive a god." He would basically say, as all of them would widen their eyes. As after hearing this, he would say, "What? Revive a god?" As he would say, "Yeah, I'm gonna be reviving a certain god by the name of Cyrus. He was once a god that ruled over the seas. And, by the way, he was also said to be one of the gods that was defeated by Rex Lapis. And if Rex Lapis or Morax is alive, then he'll have to show up, and then I can get his gnosis." After hearing this, Izuku would get ready his weapon, but he would basically run away before he could slash at him. So after seeing this, he would say, "Damn it!" As, Lumine would say, "Hey Izuku, let's follow him." As he would say, "Right." So, both Izuku and Lumine would start to follow him before he could get away. After chasing him, they would see that several sigils of permission are basically around him. As he would say this, "Take a guess why. Why I have those sigils of permission copies." As he would say, "What are you doing?" As he would say, "Well, isn't it obvious? I'm gonna be using these sigils of permission to basically summon back Osiris, and he'll wreak havoc upon Liyue Harbor, forcing the hand of that stupid god of theirs to basically appear, if he really is alive." And after saying this, the sigil of permission would disappear, as they would hear the storm basically roaring out outside. As he would say this, "It seems that Osiris has finally been awoken. Hope to see you again, comrades." He would basically say with a happy smile, as you say, "Bye-bye." He would basically start to run away, as before Izuku can do anything to basically stop him, he would get blown away by the large storm, as the doors of the Golden House would basically open. As, Izuku and Lumine would basically go outside and see a storm is basically brewing. Currently, at the Jade Palace. The Jade Palace is basically at a serious, disadvantage right there. All of them are basically panicking, knowing that this, threat is basically coming. As, Ningguang would contact the, the foreign Adepti, including, God Yu. As all of them would basically appear, as currently with Izuku and, Lumine, they arrive at the Jade Palace and basically tell all of them about it. They already know about it, but all of them are basically getting ready for this confrontation with Osiris. Osiris, currently at the harbor, is basically causing a major storm, as its several serpent-like heads are basically spinning around, basically roaring, saying that he's gonna kill, Rex Lapis. After all, it did seal him / kill him. So, after, hearing about this, all of them would basically decide to put their differences, which apparently there were several differences between them, and so decide to try and, try and save the harbor before, the large-ass freaking god over there is going to destroy the entire harbor. So, as, one of them specifically, I think it was Cloud Rotator, or was it, Moon Carver. I can't remember who it was, but I think it probably was, Cloud Rotator. Apparently, she would say that they should probably go to, to one of the ballistas to basically try and stop, Osiris from basically causing any trouble. And so, all of them would basically start to activate, the large ballistas. But during the whole barrage of thousands upon thousands of blasts from the ballista, a few Batui agents would basically appear and try to maybe destroy the, ballistas so they can, stop them from basically, from stopping their whole mission, specifically, destroy, Liyue Harbor and basically get the Gnosis. Izuku would see a few, members of the Fatui basically getting ready their weapons as Izuku would say this. Hey Lumine! As Lumine would say this. Yeah? As Izuku would say this. Let's cause some trouble for them. Shall we? As he would basically get ready his sword, as he would start glowing Dendro and, not Dendro, I meant, yeah, Dendro and, Geo Energy. As he would start to combine them, creating a large Ashura made from wood, as he would start to pilot it, almost like a mech. It was about, about the size of, like the Hulkbuster, basically like the same size as the Hulkbuster, with several arms, as each of his arms are basically wielding different weapons, from clubs, to a sword, to a spear, to a bow and arrow, and, I don't know, a literal chainsaw. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. He literally made a chainsaw made out of, Dendro and also, and Geo Energy, which is pretty ironic because, Dendro is basically just like, nature slash like wood element, basically. Or whatever. As after the, Fatui sees this, they're basically shitting their pants. As, for extra, heritage, well, the Adepti and also, other members of the Liyue Chising would basically give their power to Lumine. And they would basically start to beat on all of them. Let's just say their ass was grass and it was about to be mown. So, they would basically start beating on all of the, all of the Fatui agents, as some of the seasoned mages currently doesn't want to fight. They don't really want to fight him. Mostly because, some of them think, think that he's actually kind of hot, and the others, well, either terrified. So, all of them would basically start to run away from the sight of the literal Ashura over there. So, Izuku would basically start to wreaking havoc towards them. As he would start creating large punches, as he would start to, grab one of the swords that he created from, Geo Energy, as he would basically start slashing at them. As he would basically start to, create several wind blades, basically from, from the, animal, from the animal, element, basically, as he would start creating blasts of wind and also some swords of wind, similar to, as he would basically start to create a large, almost, I don't know, a literal ship made out of wind, by the way, as he would basically rush it towards them like Titanic style, as all of the, Fatui agents currently were thinking, yep, we're dead, as all of them would get crushed by the wind ship, basically. All of them would start to run away in fear, and some of them are currently, beaten so badly that they have to be carried like, World War II style. So, after defending them from, defending, the ballistas from, from the Fatui, the only one left was Osiris. Osiris would basically start to scream, screeching out, basically trying to, get the attention of a certain, rockhead over there, aka, Mr. Idiot over there, aka, Mr. Bankrupt over there, aka, Borax, aka Mr. Zhongli. Anyway, wait for a second. So, as they're basically opening fire on Osiris, basically going all out, as, Osiris would decide, I don't know, make a literal Bijou bomb, which, basically, it would start to, create a large ball of, I guess you could say hydro, because, it's literally a serpent made out of water, as he would basically start to condense it, as it would create a blast, shooting it at, the Jade Chamber, more specifically, where the ballistas are, causing all of the residents there that are basically, defending it, to basically run away, as it would destroy all of it. All of the ballistas, which caused everybody to think that they're going to lose. As all of them would start to think, what are we going to do? We don't have the ballistas anymore. As Izuku would start to think, saying, wait, maybe we could use, as all of them would start to perk up hearing this, as, a certain, bougie, I can't stop giving them this, like, these dumbass nicknames, specifically Nick Wong. She would say, what is this, Izuku? As he would say, Well, it's gonna be risky, but how about this? As Izuku would say this, we could sacrifice the Jade Chamber and basically blow that thing sky high. After hearing this, all of them would think, what, are you crazy? As, one of them specifically, Kiching would say, are you crazy? That's expensive and you can't do that. And as Nigwag would basically, held up her hand towards Kiching, as she would say, no, let him do it. Besides, we can probably rebuild it. After hears Kiching would say, Nigwag, don't! As she would say, no, it's good. It's good for leeway. We need to sacrifice the Jade Chamber to protect it. As all of them would agree, as all of them would start to look, at, a certain girl, aka, Lumine, as Lumine would say, what are you looking at me for? As, all of them would basically say, Lumine, we need your power. We need your ability to use your weird light element or whatever. I'm not gonna say, what it actually is, but it's basically like that golden energy that she uses. I already know that you're thinking, it's probably like, the energy that the Adepti are using on her. No. At least I'm still buying to this theory that apparently there's this new, light element or whatever. But I still think it's probably just a theory. A game theory. Okay, whatever. So, as all of them would basically, get ready into their positions, the Jade Chamber would be on top of Osiris. As all of them would basically start to, activate all of their abilities, including, all of the Adepti, and basically putting all of their energy into, into Lumine. As Izuku would start getting ready for creating a large monster, or in this case, a Geo monster to basically, bring them back to the mainland before they can, basically, fall into the ocean and die, basically. So, after, doing this, Nigwag would say this, goodbye for now, old friend. I hope we can see each other in the future. She would basically say to herself, as the Jade Palace would be thrown into the ocean, thanks to the help of Lumine, basically stabbing her sword into the literal, into the, Jade Palace, causing it to fall down on top of Osiris, causing Osiris to explode into a large explosion, similar to, about the size of, the explosion that happened during Nagasaki, or at least, during World War II, when the Japanese kind of hurt Pearl Harbor too hard, and, let's just say the Americans weren't too happy about that. So, after doing this, all of them would survive, thanks to the help of Izuku basically creating a large dragon made out of, Geo and also a bit of, Dendro energy. All of them were flying on it with the help of this gigantic ass Dendro slash, Geo dragon with leaf-like wings. The other Adepti, specifically the more animalistic looking ones like Cloud Retainer, Moon Carver, things like that, etc., they would basically start to fly as all of them would basically land back, to the ground, as everybody is basically looking at the large dragon, basically appearing out of nowhere, basically, being rode on by Izuku. After doing this, everybody would land back safely. As for Nigwag, she would basically look back at the ocean as she would say, goodbye for now, old friend. She would basically say to the Jade Chamber, which currently now is in the ocean, and, basically being the one that basically defeated, it's like, the whole Cyrus problem. And I still believe that it's technically the MVP of this, this whole battle. I can't tell you otherwise. You can't tell me otherwise or whatever. All of them are basically just watching this, saying that the Jade Chamber is basically, going down into the ocean, as all of them would realize this is the end of an era of the gods. As all of them would basically start to think about it, as Izuku would basically elaborate, saying that, taking the lessons from, from her life, specifically, Lumine, from, Mondstadt, saying that no matter what, even though, this era still needs protecting, it doesn't matter if, if you're an Adepti or something of that sort, basically just like in the game, basically, and so all of them would basically accept that. including Kichig. She would actually realize this, as she would basically look towards Izuku, as she would say, "Hey, how about you?" As Izuku would say this. "Let's just say I'm tired, okay?" Ugh, god dang, that was stressful, he would basically say, as all of them would just have a deadpan expression. As the meme would say this. "Yeah, I can definitely see why." As Izuku would say this. Anyway, we should probably go back. After all, I'm a bit tired." As she would say, "Yeah, we should probably go back." And so, all of them would start to go back. Going back going back towards, the actual Liyue city. So, yeah. So, as the Adepti leave, including, Dick Wong, things of that sort, they would basically run into a random, villager, I guess you could say. As they would basically, tell them where they could find, Zhongli. Apparently, Zhongli has left to go to Northland Mag, which, well, all of them would basically, start to, feel a bit worried, because, after all, it was owned by, Fatui, and after, fighting against, a certain, Childe over there, well, they're sort of worried about, Zhongli's safety. And so Izuku would say, "Let's go there, before Zhongli can get hurt." As all of them would agree, and so would start to run there. So, we go to a different perspective. Currently with Zhongli. As Zhongli is basically talking to both, a somewhat angry, Childe and Senora. As when Izuku, Lumine, and also Paimon arrive, they would see, La Senora and also, Childe, as they would get ready their weapons. As, Childe would basically, just look at them as he would say, hold on, comrades, I would rather not fight. Besides, we're not here to hurt, Mr. Zhongli here." As one of them would look at them, specifically, La Senora, as she would say, "Hello there, traveler," she would basically say. As she would look back at Izuku, as she would say, "Oh, hello there, cutie," she would basically say, as Izuku would look disgusted. As, she would say, "Either way, how about our agreement? And where's the gnosis?" she would basically say, as all of them would perk up. Specifically, Childe, Izuku, and also, Lumine. Which, Childe was actually in the dark about it. As she would say, he would say, "Wait, the gnosis? Where?" He would basically say, as, La Senora would basically just say this. "The reason why I didn't told you, you damn idiot of its so-called, wait for a second, you so-called harbinger, is because I don't want you causing any trouble. Besides, now, where's the goddamn gnosis?" she would basically say with an angry tone, as Zhongli would grab something from his pocket. And after going through his pocket, they would see a gnosis. As Izuku would say this, "Wait, you're Borax?" As everybody would just be in shock, including Childe, as he would say, "Huh, so you're Borax. Well, that was certainly an interesting twist." As Izuku would say this, "So, you're the god of money?" And wait a minute. Then you would basically just look at him as he would say, wait for a second, as he would say this. "Wait, then, how are you broke exactly?" As you'd say, "Well, either way, the contract has been fulfilled." As Izuku would say this. "Wait, contract?" As you'd say, "Yes. The reason why I gave her my gnosis is because I had a contract with their Archon, or more specifically, the Cryo Archon, the Saritsa. And the reason why I decided to give it to them is because I'm old. My purpose here is done, and it's time for you, or at least time for me to finally get my rest." As Saritsa would basically start to leave, and would basically say goodbye to them, specifically, Borax would, she would just brush him off. As for Izuku, she would basically, blow him a kiss, as, Childe is basically there saying, "Lucky." He would basically start doing finger guns, as Izuku would just be disgusted, and Lumine would just be angry. So, a few, days later, after the whole incident in, what happened last time, or at least, during the whole incident of where, Osiris basically happened, all of them would basically started hearing about, rumors about, how Chiode was blamed for it. I mean, they're not wrong, but still. So, as everybody's basically leaving, or at least Izuku, Lumine, and also, Paimon are basically leaving, as two people were basically with them. Specifically, well, a certain girl by the name of Hutao, which she's basically currently holding on to Izuku's arm, and, Shangli, which she was also holding on to Izuku's arm. And Lumine decided to just go for a piggyback ride. And for, Paimon, she's basically just there, basically floating, right beside them, as she would say, Izuku, are you okay? As Izuku would say this. No, I'm fine, he would basically say uncomfortably, as Lumine would say this. Well, this is for you for, this is your punishment for basically getting all of those girls to like you, she would basically say. As, after, she would basically explain what happened last time. And apparently after hearing about, a certain Hutao that she was actually liking, Izuku, well, they decided to, do the little agreement. They would decide to share him. And so, all of them are basically, holding on to him because of that reason. So, as they're currently, basically going around town, all of the people there were basically celebrating them as heroes. And all of them are currently, whispering about, how Izuku is pretty much lucky. Even though Izuku doesn't really like it. So, after a while basically walking around, they would be visited by a leeway guard, explaining that it's finally time for the rite of passage, and they're allowed to basically go there for a special, reason. So, after being told of this, all of them would basically get ready for the rite of parting, or, whatever you want to call it. So, as it basically starts, it would basically act as like some sort of I guess you could say like a regular old funeral until the last part. Apparently, Nigwang would basically say that it's basically a brand new era, and it's time for all of them to basically move on. Move on for their Archon. So, after saying this, Chising, not really Chising, I meant Kiching, would basically appear right in front of Izuku and also Lumine. As, she would explain that she wanted, to repay them, and if she could do anything, what would it be? As Izuku would explain that he wants to, I don't know, maybe get a free meal, I guess? I mean, he can certainly get that, but, well, Izuku would decide to do this instead. Can I ask you for this? As he would basically, bring up a picture, as it would show off some sort of weird looking, I guess you could say like necklace, as she would say, a necklace? As Izuku would say this. Well, yeah, I'm actually gonna be planning on giving that to a certain someone. As, all of them would perk up. Specifically, Lumine, a certain girl by the name of, Hutao, and also, Shangling. They would basically hear this as they would start fuming, as, Shangling would say, oh, is there someone that you were talking about, Izuku? She would basically say with a somewhat sweet tone, but it also speaks of death. As, Hutao would also say something similar to that, with also a tone that speaks of death, including, Lumine, as Izuku would say this. Not really, and by the way, it's something really, kind of important, he would basically say as he'd start rubbing the back of his head, as, all of them would basically, step back, but they're still pretty much suspicious. So, after hearing about this, Kiching would basically, allow it, and ask for Lumine. She would basically ask Lumine what is her wish, and so she would basically simply reply, to have some missing person posters. So, yeah. So, I'm gonna be leaving this episode right off here, and god damn, this is certainly a long episode. God damn, it's like a 1 hour, episode. Jesus Christ. So, I'm gonna be leaving this episode right off here, and so, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!